the island where women rule, matriarchy that exists to this day in the crystalline waters off South Korea's southern coast, where ancient volcanic rocks meet endless blue horizons, lies Jeju Island, a place where the natural order of patriarchy was turned upside down centuries ago and remains so to this day. Here, in a world where women have traditionally been relegated to secondary roles, an extraordinary matriarchal society flourished, creating one of the most fascinating examples of female leadership and empowerment that continues to thrive in the modern era. The story begins, not with queens or empresses, but with the sea itself. For over 1,500 years, the women of Jeju Island have descended into the ocean's depths without breathing equipment, diving up to 60 feet below the surface to harvest abalone, sea urchins, and seaweed. He takes the children to school, does the shopping, and has dinner ready when I return from the sea. This isn't unusual here. It's how families have functioned for generations. Village councils on Jeju Island traditionally included Hani representatives, and their voices carried weight in community decisions. When development projects threatened traditional diving grounds, it was the Hani who organized resistance, using their economic leverage to protect both their livelihoods and the island's marine ecosystems. This created generations of highly educated islanders who maintained deep respect for their Hani heritage while pursuing modern careers. These women developed legendary lung capacity and cold resistance, diving in waters as cold as 50 degrees Fahrenheit wearing only thin wet. Their training began in childhood, with girls as young as 7 learning to hold their breath and navigate underwater currents. By adulthood, experienced Hani could dive to depths of 60 feet and stay submerged for over 2 minutes, skills that would impress modern freediving champions. Sons learned cooking, childcare, and household management as essential life skills, while daughters developed confidence, physical courage, and financial independence. This upbringing produced generations of Jeju residents with more flexible gender attitudes than their mainland counterparts, creating a society where both men and women felt comfortable in non-traditional roles. Younger Jeju women, educated in universities and exposed to urban career opportunities, increasingly chose office jobs over the physically demanding and dangerous work of diving. The average age of active divers rose to over 65, with some women continuing to dive into their 80s. Some initiatives succeeded in attracting new divers, but the fundamental challenge remained: convincing modern women that underwater harvesting could provide both economic security and cultural fulfillment in an increasingly connected and opportunity-rich world. Some Hani leveraged social media to market their products directly to consumers, combining traditional diving skills with modern business techniques. These adaptations demonstrated the same innovative spirit that had originally created Jeju's matriarchal society. Young women who might have once followed their mothers and grandmothers into the sea instead pursued careers in tourism, technology, or moved to Seoul for urban opportunities. Studies have shown that both men and women from the island display greater gender role flexibility, higher acceptance of female leadership, and more egalitarian attitudes toward marriage and family responsibilities than their mainland counterparts, and that matriarchy isn't just theoretical possibility but lived reality. In their daily dives into the ocean's depths, these remarkable women continue to surface with more than just seafood. They bring up proof that different worlds are possible, that gender roles can be reimagined, and that the courage to dive deep can transform entire civilizations. These women show enlarged lung capacity, increased tolerance for cold water, and enhanced blood oxygen efficiency. She reflects on the legacy she and thousands of other Hani have created. We showed the world that women can lead, can provide, can be strong. Our daughters may choose different paths, but they'll always know that women can dive into any depths and emerge victorious. That knowledge will never disappear, no matter how the world changes around us. Their bodies represent evolutionary adaptations to aquatic environments, physical changes that occurred alongside the cultural evolution that created Jeju's unique matriarchy. These attitudes persist even among Jeju residents who moved to other parts of Korea, suggesting that early exposure to matriarchal norms creates lasting psychological frameworks. This generational shift threatened not just the diving tradition but the entire matriarchal social structure that had defined Jeju identity for centuries. Climate change altered ocean conditions and marine ecosystems, making traditional diving grounds less productive. Industrial fishing methods provided cheaper seafood alternatives, reducing demand for hand-harvested marine products. The island demonstrates that patriarchal structures aren't inevitable, that women's leadership can create prosperous and stable communities, and that traditional gender roles can be successfully reversed when circumstances favor such changes. Dr. Lee Hyang-goke, now a marine biologist in Seoul who grew up watching her Hanja grandmother. UNESCO designated the Hanja tradition as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2016, acknowledging its unique contribution to human diversity and gender equality. Documentary films, academic studies, and cultural exchanges brought global attention to this remarkable society where women's leadership had thrived for over a millennium. Hani formed cooperative groups called Jamsa share in diving territories, safety responsibilities, and marketing of their catches. These cooperatives operate as women-led businesses centuries before female entrepreneurship became recognized elsewhere. Senior Hanya mentored younger divers, creating knowledge transfer systems that preserved not just diving techniques but entire cultural traditions. Explains, "My grandmother's courage in diving into dangerous waters taught me that exploration and discovery are unlimited by gender. Her example gave me confidence to pursue marine science, knowing that women had been studying the ocean from the inside out for centuries on their environmental stewardship, born from intimate knowledge of ocean cycles and marine life, made them natural conservationists generations before environmental protection became a global concern. My grandmother supported her family this way, my mother did the same, and now I continue the tradition." Her matter-of-fact tone reveals how normal this arrangement feels to Jeju residents, even as it challenges fundamental assumptions about gender roles held throughout most of the world. Men seeking wives often had to prove their domestic capabilities and their respect for women's independence. Marriage proposals sometimes included commitments to support wives' diving careers rather than expecting them to abandon their ocean work for domestic duties. Wedding ceremonies incorporated rituals honoring the sea and the bride's future role as a provider, inverting traditional Korean marriage customs that emphasized female support. These women, known as Hanyi or women of the sea, didn't just dive for food, they built an entire civilization around their aquatic prowess. While mainland Korean families struggled with poverty and displacement, Hanyi continued harvesting the ocean's bounty, their income streams remaining relatively stable even during national crises. Some Hanyi became wealthy enough to send their children to prestigious universities on the mainland, reversing typical patterns where boys received educational priority. Traditional Korean shamanism, already more gender-balanced than Confucian patriarchy, found particularly fertile ground on Jeju Island. Female shamans, known as madang, held positions of spiritual authority that complemented the Hanya's economic power. Together, these women created a society where feminine wisdom, both practical and spiritual, guided community life in ways unimaginable in mainstream Korean culture, fundamentally reshaping gender roles in ways that would seem impossible in most corners of the world. Kim Sunya, now 73 years old, has been diving these waters for over 5 decades. Her weathered hands tell stories of countless encounters with the sea's treasures and dangers. Men, unable to match their wives and daughters earning power from the sea, gradually assumed domestic roles. They cooked, cleaned, raised children, and managed households while their women ventured into the dangerous depths to provide for their families. "When I was young," she recalls, her voice carrying the wisdom of decades spent beneath the waves, "my mother told me that the sea chooses its daughters. The women dive because we can hold our breath longer, because we understand the ocean's rhythms, because our bodies are made for this ancient dance with the depths, not its sons." Her words aren't folklore, they're backed by remarkable physiological adaptations that generations of Hanya have developed, allowing them to stay underwater for up to 2 minutes at depths that would challenge professional divers. The transformation of Jeju society began with this simple biological advantage, but it grew into something far more profound. As women became the primary breadwinners through their diving skills, traditional Korean patriarchal structures crumbled on this isolated island. Park Myung-suk, a 45-year-old Honey and mother of 3, explains the daily reality of this role reversal. "My husband wakes up early to prepare our breakfast and pack lunch for my diving day." The economic implications were staggering. During the Japanese colonial period in the Korean War, when the peninsula faced severe hardship, Jeju Island's women-led economy proved remarkably resilient. This economic empowerment translated into social and political influence that extended far beyond individual families. The cultural implications rippled through every aspect of Jeju society. Education patterns reflected this female-centered society. Jeju families, funded by their diving mothers and grandmothers, prioritized education for all children regardless of gender. The physical demands of Hani life created a unique culture of female strength, and the social structure that emerged around this female expertise was both practical and profound. Romance and marriage on Jeju Island developed their own unique patterns. The island's children grew up with reversed gender expectations that shaped their worldviews in remarkable ways. International recognition of Jeju's Hani culture grew throughout the 20th century as feminists and cultural observers discovered this living example of successful matriarchy. However, modernization brought challenges that threatened this ancient matriarchy. The aging of the Hanya population became a critical concern. Government efforts to preserve Hanya culture included financial incentives for young women to learn diving, cultural education programs in schools, and promotion of Hani traditions as tourist attractions. Contemporary Hanya adapted their ancient practices to modern realities. Many diversified their income through ecotourism, teaching diving techniques to visitors, selling traditional foods, and participating in cultural performances. The psychological impact of growing up in a female-led society continues to distinguish Jeju residents. Medical researchers have studied Hanya physiology, discovering remarkable adaptations that developed over generations of diving. Today, As traditional Hanja practices face uncertain futures, the broader lessons of Jeju's matriarchal society continue to inspire discussions about gender equality, environmental sustainability, and alternative social organizations. The Hanja of Jeju Island remind us that human societies can organize themselves in radically different ways, that women's capabilities extend far beyond traditional limitations. As Kim Sunya prepares for what may be one of her final diving seasons,